Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Entree Series podcast. And for those of you who are new here, this is a series of podcasts by PSUP to help you make better and informed career choices by initiating conversations with students who have once been in your shoes. So today we have Miss Anjali Nelliat with us. Thank you so much for joining. So Ms. Anjali has pursued a BTech in chemical engineering at NITK. Then she went for an MS in the John Hopkins University in chemical and biomolecular engineering. And followed by that, she pursued a PhD in systems biology from Harvard University. So thank you so much for joining us, Anjali.
It's great to be here. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Great. All right. So to just clear the air, for those of you who might be interested in the field and who's kind of confused, could you please explain what exactly you do and what your field is surrounding?
Okay. So systems biology is a really broad field, and what most systems biologists like to say is they started off as people who maybe weren't as interested in biology and had more of like a quantitative background, like either physics, math, or engineering, and then they realized that biological systems are sort of like the perfect complex systems to apply these quantitative principles to. So essentially, it's very broad. So like some people do like say more like machine learning, bioinformatics, applying like specific algorithms to data, like these huge data sets, because like you have all like biological data that can be so rich. It can be patient data, it can be data from genes, trying to find correlations with diseases. That's sort of what's happening with COVID-19 right now. So that's one area. Another area is more like the materials engineering aspect of it, like designing biomaterials, and um, yeah, that's another side. And what I do specifically is just a mix of, say, genetic engineering, which is like just modifying genes and perturbing them to look at like perturbing inputs to look at outputs basically, and then getting these like huge data sets and analyzing them. It's sort of a mix, and the nice thing I think about systems biology is a lot of people come in um, like with experience in one field, but you're learning how, like, a lot of people don't really know a lot of biology coming in. Like I never took a bio course before I came here to Harvard, and it's sort of an opportunity to learn how you can apply physical sciences to biology. Mhm.
All right. Wow, that sounds interesting. So, were you always interested in the field, like since your BTech, because you were in NITK and you pursued chemical engineering? Yeah. So, did you have like a turning point when you realized this interest?
Yeah, so I absolutely hated biology in 11th and 12th. I refused to take bio in 11th and 12th. I took physics,
I
chemistry,
can
math, and
relate.
stat. That's how much I disliked it. But it was in second year of chemi. I was Professor Saidatta's class, and we were talking. It was a transport phenomena class, and he sort of mentioned um, an application of like applying, say, like heat transfer to like measuring area of probes to melt tumors in the brain, or using mass transfer to look at how a drug would penetrate the skin and what the rate of delivery of a drug would be. And I thought that was really interesting, and that sort of like it was a little more complex problem than some of the problems that I'd encountered in like say industry or something like that. And um, so the drug delivery part was what got me sort of hooked on to biology, and then that's when I applied to like drug delivery labs in the country and outside. Like I applied to NTU Singapore, and that sort of led to an internship there, and that just sort of reaffirmed the interest basically in biology.
Oh, great. Okay, so you did your NTU internship during college or right after it?
During my just after third year, like the summer after third year was, yeah, when I did.
How
And
did
it was,
you like apply?
I just got lucky, I think, because I was applying. Yeah, like it's not what people like to hear, but um, so it was not an official program. I was just emailing professors
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
all over it. And that's, I think, something that I would suggest people do. Like, I think I probably emailed 40 people, and this was one of two I heard back from. So if you and like tailor like the email to that professor's research interest, it does require a bit of work. Like you go through their research and you find out what they're doing, and then send like a very specific email. Like definitely want not one of those dear professor generic ones.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I heard back from one person in Australia, and also this professor at Singapore, but only the professor at Singapore could fund me, and
Okay.
that's why I said like, yeah, like I can pay for my stay and things like that, but he said, oh, he can give me a small stipend, which was nice. And um yeah, I spent 2.5 months in NTU Singapore, and yeah, that really helped. um just But again, that was, and I wasn't really sure if I wanted a letter of recommendation from there, just because I'd done like a very short stint and it was a huge lab, and I really interacted more with the postdocs and not the professor. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just sort of experiencing research culture outside India really um, helped me decide that I wanted to maybe do a master's,
Mm-mm.
and see if I wanted to do a PhD outside, just because yeah, I think there's a lot. It just seemed like a very different environment. Like I think, at least compared to what I'd experienced, like think in terms of like hierarchies and
Mm-mm.
just how free people are with their ideas, and
Yeah.
how much money there is just to pursue pursue risky science. That was definitely, I think India is like, definitely, like there are some brilliant professors who do some really exciting research, and where some places where this sort of like research hierarchy doesn't exist too much. But the issue is like there's no money, like there's no money to do risky science, right? Like and that's why I think I wanted to do something abroad. Mhm.
Got it. Got it. All right. So you applied for your MS, I think, right after that, right after your PTech.
Mhm.
So how did you go about the application process, and like, did you have like a criteria of like what schools you wanted to go to?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think it's always a good idea to be very strategic about schools. Like I knew I wanted to do something that was very systems biology like, but I also knew that, well, I don't have the background. Like I did some online courses in sort of biology and quantitative biology from just open Coursera courses, right? Um, and that I was like, okay, well, I can't do actual biology coursework here at NITK, but let me just try to supplement like whatever I have already. And my grades, I didn't even have an 8 point GPA when I applied. So if GPA is good, it's good if you have a great GPA, because that's going to make things easier, but it's not the end all of everything. Like I had a 7.8, I think that was my, I don't really remember, but that was around what my GPA was when I applied to Hopkins. So don't let uh, average GPA sort of deter you from applying. The most important thing I would say is your statement of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tailor that to what, um, like really make it like a personal story that also excites people about like your potential. I think, speaking like I sort of spoke about like my motivation, like why I applied, like why I chose chemical engineering in the first place, was because I was like, I don't want to give up any of the sciences. I mean, I want to do chemistry, math, and physics, and so that's why I picked chemical engineering. And talk about, and I was fortunate to do the NTU internship. Meanwhile, I also did summers with Professor Prasanna once in college. I also did an internship at another research institute in my second year. Um, so, sort of really stress on those. I think the SOP is sort of the most important document that you can send them. And now a lot of schools don't even need the GRE, especially this year. So, master's programs I'm not completely sure about, but almost all the PhD programs I know, especially this year, And I think moving forward also, at least a lot of Harvard programs are doing away with the GRE requirement.
Right.
But I think for me, just having like a decent, like anything above, I think a 315 is a good idea. I had maybe like a 327, 323. I don't remember the exact score, but yeah, just having um yeah, because I know there were people in my cohort at Hopkins in the same program as me who had um lower GRE scores, but they had some good research experience. Picking a school, yeah, like I said, I was interested in biology, but I knew I didn't have the experience, so I applied to chemical engineering and some biology related
Right.
program, or even just chemical engineering programs where there were faculty who were doing something bio related
Mm-hmm.
and
Got it.
spoke. And definitely I have like this. I think what's my department now has this like really nice template of what should be in a statement of purpose. So I can maybe send that to you, and then if there are people who want to contact you with that, or even shoot me an email, I can send them this sort of general template that our department recommends for a statement of purpose.
Great.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I think
Great.
I Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's
I was just going to say, I just applied to in Europe. I just applied to one school,
mm,
and letters of recommendation. I had all three from. Yeah, I think I had all three. Yeah, I had all three from NITK professors. Let me.
got it. Got it.
Oh no, I had one from. I think I had one from my second year sort of research experience that I had, and then I had two. I think side. No, I had all. Sorry, I'm so sorry. This happened 5 years ago, more than 5 years ago. So I'm a little. Yeah, I had three letters of recommendation. One from my final year project advisor. That was Sriniketan sir, yeah. And then I had one from Saidat and one from Vidya Shetty. This is not going to mean anything to anybody who isn't in chemi at NITK, so I apologize for that. But the nice thing was when I was applying to TU Delft, they wanted me to scan paper recommendations and upload them. I don't think they do that anymore, but I got a chance to look at what my recommendation letters were like. And fortunately, they were like, I was really happy with how they were very personalized and written really well. And I think that's also important. Yeah, I had some good recommenders. So I would definitely suggest asking your professor if they are willing to write you a good recommendation letter, because a generic one is going to hurt your application more than help it.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. It's good to have like a good relationship also with like professors on campus, especially if you have like similar interests. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the final year project, make it your own. Like I know we do it in groups of three, but um, I changed my project. Like the my advisor did nothing biology related. I mean, he was making these nano composites from agricultural waste, and I was like, no, I have this idea for like there's this really cool bacteria that makes its own cellulose, and so instead of using plants, can we use cellulose from that and try to make wound healing bandages? And he
Whoa.
was like, well, this is completely unrelated to what I do, but I said it'll only cost you 800 rupees to buy this strain, and so can we do that? And this was finally a project in ITK, and he was like, yeah, sure, if you can make this work, go ahead. And so I was really lucky that I had two other group members who were like all aboard with this, and
Got it.
yeah, we made that work. So yeah, definitely, because we don't get a lot of time to do a lot of research, and undergrads here, they spend a lot of time on research, like from the moment they come in, like
Oh, okay.
freshman sophomore year, they are like they spend a good portion of their time in lab, especially if they know they're going to apply to grad school.
Mm-hmm.
um and so you're competing with these people, and in general, the number of like master's programs admit a lot more international students than PhD programs do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're thinking of applying directly to PhD programs, I think the biggest thing is research experience. Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, sounds good. So how was your coursework like at Harvard and at John Hopkins? How did it change, and like what did you like the most?
Oh, some of the, I think I think when we come in, a thing is like, oh well, you're a Hopkins or Harvard, and so your professors are kind of going to be amazing teachers, and 99% of the time that's true, but I would say there's 1% where there's like a brilliant scientist, but a very bad teacher, like extremely forgetful, scatterbrain. You know, like the scatterbrain genius stereotype exists for
Yeah.
a reason. But Hopkins, the coursework is, I think, like there's a lot of choice.
Mm.
You get to tailor the course the way you want. You can take courses outside your department. And Hopkins, the chemistry program at Hopkins only requires you to take 6 courses. Like whereas, like if you go to like CMU or another university like that, I think um, you're required to take 10 in 2 years, which is quite a big course load.
Mm.
So I had to take just 3 courses per semester. And the nice thing about Hopkins is like, if you finish all your coursework in the first year and you have a good GPA, the second year they used to waive off the tuition. So I essentially did not pay for 2 years at Hopkins. I paid for one, which was great. I'm not sure they were thinking of revoking this program when I was in my second year, but it might still be happening. So
Okay.
like you just maybe pay 20% of tuition in the second year, and you only pay for the first year. And courses, again, I really liked all of my courses at Hopkins. I even audited like one biology course. I didn't take it for grades because I realized at one point, okay, I know nothing, and if I continue to like take this course, I need to audit it.
Mhm.
Coursework, yeah, it is a little challenging in terms of like the work I put in. Like, okay, back in India again, I wasn't some 9 pointer, so I didn't like go back to my room every day and study or do that. But here you have assignments for every subject, like 3 assignments per week or something like that. So you're constantly in touch with the material, which I think is great because um, there's this. I feel like I learned a lot more taking the same subjects.
Mm.
Like when I took advanced transport phenomena here, I was like, well, I think I retained a lot more of the information, not necessarily learned a lot more because I had some great teachers at NITK too. Um, but yeah, and then if you're, I think like at Hopkins, they have this option of doing a course-based master's or a thesis-based master's.
Mm.
I would say if you're interested in research or want to just make sure if you want to do a PhD before you actually commit to it, because it definitely is like a 5 year commitment, right? I would suggest doing the thesis based masters just to see if research is for you and you enjoy it.
All right. Yeah.
Harvard, I realize the undergrads at Harvard are kind of brilliant. Like they take some of the same courses I do. And yeah, professors, I've had some really amazing professors here. I've only taken 2 courses though. So the thing is, my PhD program only requires you to take 3 electives and then 2 core courses. One is just communication of science, how to communicate your science to people, and the other is
Mm.
um, just like this quantitative reasoning, how to design experiments, how to think about your data class. So it's PhD, generally graduate school isn't like PhD programs aren't a coursework focus. It's just like bare minimum, just enough to like help you with your research. It's not meant to be the focus of things, and nobody will ever ask you for your grad school GPA ever. I mean, like, yes, your master's GPA, if you're applying to jobs and things like that, might matter a little bit, as long as you're not doing like too badly, you should be okay, because it's more about how you do at a job interview. Because I did, just to have a safety net, I also did apply to jobs. So they don't really care about your grades all that much. I think the point of it is just like opening this window of opportunity. Like the masters, at least for me, was like just research experience. And yeah, I think the only reason I got into Harvard was because I did a master's that had like a, fortunately my research project was really exciting. And I didn't have a paper when I applied, but it was in review, and it was at Nature, which is like a really prestigious journal. um, and I think that really really helped.
Damn, wow, that's great. All right, so a little bit financial aspect. So could you give like a gist of how exactly you manage the finances? Did you take like a student loan, or like how did you
Mhm.
go about it?
So a PhD is completely funded. You don't have to pay a penny, which is great, and you get a stipend. And Harvard, the stipend is really like it's a good stipend because they have money. But for my master's, initially I was sort of almost deciding to go to TU Delft just because it was cheaper than Hopkins.
Mhm.
But Hopkins, like I said, they had this waiver thing where if you have a good enough GPA by the end of your first year, you don't have to pay for the entire 2 years. And I was sort of counting on that, and that worked out for me. But I did take a student loan. I'm paying it back right now with my PhD stipend quite slowly. Um, but yeah, it was yeah completely financed by a loan. I mean I didn't have money for like personal use that my parents very generously sent me. But
Got
my tuition was completely paid for by a loan. Hopkins is a little expensive. And in general, private schools are in the US are a little more expensive than public schools. But for PhD programs, especially, private schools tend to accept more international students than public schools, because public schools, you can't spend a lot of government funds on international students here in the US. So I would say be strategic when you're picking schools too. If you're applying to master's programs, go for it, because they're not funding you, so you don't. Um, yeah, whereas PhD programs, I would say like some schools explicitly say they don't take a lot, like UCSF, for instance, for their bioengineering program, sort of explicitly says we don't accept a lot of international students.
it.
But and they like some of their classes have zero international students. But if you want to apply, like generally if an application is outstanding, they might accept.
Got
um, yeah. But yeah, bank loans definitely, and paying them back. And the nice thing is you can sort of deduct when you pay. So if you're a master student, you might not pay taxes until maybe you do a TA or an RA or something. So I did do an RA. My professor in my thesis lab in my master's at Hopkins, she started paying me my second year. So sort of like I was in an RA position, and that helped with only personal expenses. So like my rent and food and all of that sort of thing was covered by that. And typically an RA or a TAship will only cover that. It won't really cover your fees in any shape or form. um, yeah.
it. Got it. Cool. So, do you have any notions about what you think should be done at an ITK? Any gaps that you think exist, or anything that students particularly do, which they realize is not good, but they should probably work towards it?
I would say start research early. I think I was already seeing a change in that. By the time I was in my final year, there were like second years who were doing research in their departments. I would say like pick a professor at NITK who you think does interesting research, and just like ask if you can join their labs pretty early on, like when you're in your second year ideally. And um, yeah, I think publications and things like that are hard to do, especially because we have a much sort of structured and very packed course load at NITK. And I would like it would be really nice if departments sort of allowed students outside their departments to take courses,
Mm.
like sort of just, I guess, like allowed you to register. Like if I could register for a course in CS, for instance, I think that would have really helped, because I did take some CS courses once I got here.
Got it.
Um, and I think if they allowed for that sort of freedom,
Mhm.
it would really help students like figure out what they're interested in, what they want to do.
Yeah.
Um, and there is, like, for instance, there is a biotech department in
Yeah.
NITK. There's a microbial biotechnology, but a lot of those courses aren't open to undergrads, and I think just opening that up would help. And like now, I think moving forward, something that a lot of programs in the US are going to do is have diversity statements where you talk about outreach and what you're doing for diversity. I don't know how that's going to affect international students, but like our PhD program, for instance, is thinking about having this diversity statement. A lot of West Coast schools already do this.
Mhm.
So like UCSB, I think UCSF as well, do this. And so like if you're interested in outreach, all like, yeah, I wouldn't say do it for the CV. Like if you're interested in it, don't think that it's going to hurt your application. Like go out and do it. What else? Yeah, I think other changes, I think these are the main ones. Um, yeah, I think it's a lot. Most of it is a lot of personal initiative. It's very hard to change the system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to like get students to like figure out their interests, like especially with peer support, we're trying to do that. Soon we're gonna make uh, learning curves for students to understand where their interests lie, if they have any interdisciplinary interests and they want to pursue it,
Mhm.
or they want to like get contacts. I think in that point of view, we'll also be sharing your contact if anyone wants to like get in touch with you, especially about the
Mhm.
SOPs you were talking about. I think we can link your contact to at the end of the video. And
Sure, yeah.
so, yeah, okay. So, final question: any specific advice for students who are interested in systems biology and want to pursue any field or like venture into like chemical or like biology related sciences?
Specific advice. I think just, especially if you're in an engineering school where there is no opportunity to do any coursework related to biology or even biology related research,
Mhm.
maybe I would say take some online courses, try to find, so there are like completely remote computational biology projects that a lot of professors are offering, like especially right now during COVID-19. And so just email people and ask them about, you know, doing projects for them. Like I know there's this, so I'm mentoring this one student from IIT Kharagpur
Mhm.
who's yeah, who's so also, yeah, our program systems biology at Harvard has this application assistance program where they match you with a student and they will help you with your statement of purpose. With
Oh,
it's sort of like an attempt to increase diversity. Our department just started this initiative. Actually,
great.
some of us students actually just started this initiative, and so they match students with potential mentors, and so it's a good way to sort of help you gauge where you're at in the application process. Or um, yeah, so definitely if you're applying this year and you're thinking about systems biology, um, maybe reach out to us on the website, Harvard SysBio website. There's a link to something called the application assistance program.
Mhm.
And in general, yeah, I would say the I think the most important thing is just creating opportunities for yourself. Like I
Mhm.
would suggest, if you're interested about Cispire and want to find out more, there's some excellent courses on Coursera that there's like an intro to systems bio course that I think that would or MIT offers some open courseware that'll help you sort of realize what the field is about and get familiar with it. um, yeah.
Great. Okay, I think that was some pretty good insights. Thank you so much for joining us, Anjali. It was great speaking to you, and I'm pretty sure many students will find this very valuable too. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And this is such a great initiative that you've undertaken, and I wish you all the best. And good luck to everyone who's applying as well.
Yeah,
So yeah.
thank you so much.
Okay, bye. Yeah, thank you. Bye.